Before we jump into the summer forecast and summer weather patterns, be sure to like and subscribe to this video and YouTube channel to get more notifications about upcoming extreme and stormy weather. It's always a big forecasting question. What does the next season hold? In this case, summer. Will it be stormy? Will it be hot? Or all of the above? I take a look. One of the first places we have to start when we're looking at any forecast is what happened last time. And you might recall last summer was hot for most of us, especially in the West, which has been kind of a trend in recent years, but also in the plains, along with some pretty dry weather. And it's worth noting that almost every summer now is hot for almost all of us, because you don't have the cooling effect of winter because the Arctic gets dark, so cold air always develops. In the summer, that doesn't happen. The biggest thing is climate change. There's just no cooling effect really out there unless you have a persistent wet pattern. So last year in the Southwest, they did have a pretty heavy monsoon with dry weather in California and dry in the plains. Our summer pattern last year was really pronounced by this upper level high pressure ridge right into Western Canada and then throughout the central US and the plains. So that created hotter than normal conditions for a lot of places, and then it was normal or slightly cooler up around Hudson Bay, Eastern Canada, but most of the US was pretty warm. Now, the recent pattern has been wet the last couple weeks in parts of the plains and Texas with kind of this split flow in the upper level ridge. Heat for much of the West, but that split flow north and south has allowed some storminess to move into the plains and parts of the Rockies. This week might be setting the general pattern for the weeks ahead here, at least into the early part of the summer. Latest drought monitor shows a lot of drought across the plains, and the big concern among climate forecasters, those people looking long term, is that drought. Does it expand north and east? Because of course, agriculture, commodities, all really looking at what happens with that drought. Also, Western Canada in drought, not as severe as what we're seeing in the plains, but this is 2 years in a row now, and they've had some much warmer than normal temperatures in Canada, all of that leading to wildfires that have really been sparking here over the last week or so. 14-day, 2-week temperature anomalies, which are difference from normal. You're going to hear me talk about anomalies a lot. It just means difference from normal. Very warm. We're talking 10, 20, 30 degrees above normal. That's very hot, and it's early spring in these areas, so everything's dry. So we've been seeing fires erupt everywhere. All this grayish color, that's smoke. The white is clouds and fog, so that's how you can distinguish the two. And that smoke has been spreading too across North America and across the Atlantic, reaching even Ireland now and France, and that smoke will probably continue for a while until the pattern really changes. It's also been creating some air quality issues and will continue to, probably on and off, at least through June until the pattern changes. And the European model here, and the consensus among a lot of the models we use, is that we're in for a dry stretch here for the next 6 weeks or so. So this is through June. European model on top, very dry for the plains, so that drought might be expanding. But all the models have this sort of central US somewhere dry period. And also, though, a wet period into or areas into western Texas, maybe New Mexico, Colorado. So we'll have to watch for, does this split flow kind of continue that creates some moisture somewhere in the west or southwestern plains, or maybe it's the south central Rockies, and then drier weather east of that. European model for the next 6 weeks, pretty warm across Canada into the central US. And the ensemble of models that the Climate Prediction Center uses, so that kind of average of some of the main North American models, calls for a lot of heat in Canada and above normal temperatures really for everybody. And again, this is kind of a climate signal. You see some cooler than normal temperatures in the Eastern Pacific. That's mainly leftover La Nina, or a cool phase of water there in the Pacific. But the official forecast for June does call for pockets of above normal and nobody really below normal temperatures. And that really makes a lot of sense. So the forecast from the Climate Prediction Center, again, and also with those models, does kind of call for this split flow to continue. Very warm in Western Canada, also the Southwest, into the plains, and then some occasional storminess here making its way into the Western plains and maybe into Colorado or New Mexico. So the official Climate Prediction Center forecast is calling for some above normal precip in some of those areas. But where that exactly pans out is going to be very difficult here. Again, remember, past 7 days, we're really just educated guessing with the forecast. So when we look even farther out, the whole summer-wide forecast, the official forecast calls for equal chances of below or above normal temperatures for the upper Midwest I really find that hard to believe because almost every summer has been above normal in the upper Midwest, keeping things hot in the Southwest. So really establishing that ridge kind of across the West again with hot, dry conditions there. And if we do have a trough kind of, or a persistent pattern of some troughing in the central part of the continent, Climate Prediction Center pushes that storminess or above normal precip to the east, which would make sense if that pattern pans out. Again, kind of difficult to believe that all of a sudden that would switch. They seem to be heavily reliant on the CFS model, which does kind of put cooler than normal temperatures in the central part of the US. But again, that's very rare to come by with summer temperatures. The European model looks a little bit more realistic to me, where pretty much everybody has slightly above normal temperatures. And even when we look at those ensembles of the models that Climate Prediction Center looks at, those also have some warmer temperatures, but kind of hinting at maybe those closer to normal temperatures in the central US. So what happens with the weather this summer is really everyone's guess, but probably an expansion of the drought in the plains, at least for the first part of the summer, but the chance of some storminess in the western plains and also in the east central US.